another episode here of Cloud Talk Live. Come on, screens, move. All right, there it is. Look at all that. Well, folks, welcome back to another program. My name is Jeff DeVerter. I am the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace Technology. I get all these buttons pushed. I'm having trouble with them this morning. Guys, welcome so much to Cloud Talk Live. I'm so glad that you're here. Super interesting show today. We're continuing the summer road trip, which, we've been doing here all summer. In fact, I think this might be our last episode. But I'd love for you to introduce yourselves in the comments, whether you're watching us in the YouTube or over on LinkedIn. We can see all of them. So go ahead and click that. Now, as you can see, as we look out here, I am in the Rackspace corporate headquarters today, the castle, as we call it. Now, if you'd like to get a hold of us here at the Solve program, you can do that as easy as sending an email to solve@rackspace.com. Now, before we get too much farther into this little program, what I want to do is call out a little bit about this facility. And for that, I have my good friend, PJ Lovejoy, who's going to join us here for just one second. PJ, why don't you come over here on my right? And everybody left on the screen, but come on up into here. Everybody, welcome PJ. Look who's here. So PJ, we ran into each other just a minute ago. Where was that?
We were down by our fueling station where we have Taco Tuesday, celebrating some rackers coming into the office today and bringing them in, drawing them in with some tacos so they can see each other and say hi.
That's right. Now, this is a global program.
That's true.
The entire world does not know what a taco is, especially a breakfast taco. What is the glory of the breakfast taco?
So super unique to South Texas. I grew up, sorry, I'm looking at the camera here. I'm looking all over the place at this point. I grew up in Southern Ohio myself, so tacos were kind of new to me when I moved to South Texas, but it is a Texas tradition, beautiful tortilla, whether that's flour or corn, and filled with all sorts of great breakfast items, eggs, bacon, beans, cheese, all sorts of great stuff.
All the fun stuff. Well, all of this, of course, is part of getting more rackers to come into the office because, we're trying to draw more in. There's a lot that can happen here. What are some of the other events that we do to help bring rackers back in?
Of course. Yeah, so we've got some really great activities. Some of them do center around food because we know that draws people together.
Food is a motivator.
Yep, that's for sure. And it gets people into kind of common spaces where they can make those connections and start, building those relationships and collaborating across the globe, which is really great. We've also been working on some additional opportunities. We're bringing in some guest speakers later this month to talk a little bit about strengths and some great stuff that we do here within the company and allow rackers that chance to really grow and build their skills. But also just some opportunities for rackers to really come together and build those connections. That's really the big impetus behind what we're doing with our return to office work and incentives is just making those connections happen for rackers.
And that's the beauty of being able to, we don't necessarily have to come to the office to do our job. We've learned we can do our job anywhere, but here we come to collaborate and to work with other coworkers and even customers. I got some partners coming in tomorrow I get to hang out with. So PJ, thanks for coming by and hanging out with me this morning.
Nice to see y'all.
All right, back to tacos for you. All right, wasn't that fun? Love it when we can find some folks around and just pull them into the program. Hey, looks like we do have some folks who are out here. Sean is here. Sean, welcome to the program. Sorry, folks, I can't see my screen so well. Let's make a little move. So we got Sean here. We got Vinesh is here. Welcome, Vinesh, new racker. We got Todd is here, my best friend Todd, who drags me all around the country getting to talk to great customers and partners. All right, well, let's move on with the program, everybody. I have a great guest with us here today who we're going to head in that direction here very shortly. But first, I want to remind you that you can always head out to solve.rackspace.com and learn more about what we do here in the Solve program. Now, Solve is Rackspace's thought leadership program that I am intimately involved in helping shepherd along. This program is one of those things. One of the other things we do, of course, is the podcast. The podcast is, good 30 to 45 minute interview style type stuff. Now, the audio, if you can't make any of these, does show up over in the in this. I take the audio from this and I shove it into the podcast. So if you ever miss an episode, subscribe to the podcast. You'll get all of them over there. Well, let's head on to this. Folks, that's right. We are continuing the summer road trip. In fact, as I mentioned before, I think this might be the last of our summer road trips. And for this, I have brought up the general manager of our Middle East and Africa region. His name is George Pawlyszyn. And George is so gracious to be a part of this today. We tried to get him a little bit earlier. He was on holiday for a little while, and but he agreed to be a part of this while he's in the process of moving house. So we really appreciate George taking the time to be with us today. Benjamin, why don't we go ahead and bring producer Benjamin is here. Last episode for him before he goes back to school. But we've got George with us today. George, welcome to the program.
Hi, everyone.
So George,
yes,
tell us where you are.
To you. I'm in my new apartment, which is in the middle of moving. I would like to do it from the balcony. This is the view from the balcony.
Wow.
I would like to do it from the balcony, but we hit 50 degrees today, which is 102 counting in Fahrenheit. So if you'll excuse me, I'll take it from inside. It's great to be here.
George, I'm so glad that you are here from your great big empty of your new house. So, folks, did you pick up at 50 degrees C or 122 Fahrenheit for those of us here in America? Yeah. That is a toasty temperature.
It is. That's as hot as it gets. So I'm pleased to say it's going to be cooler going forward.
Well, George, you are our general manager in that region. And as you know, and we visited before we came on the program, and we had a chat last week as we got ready for this. You know, what we're doing here is going around the world and learning what is different and what is unique about cloud and cloud transformation in these different regions. And I was shocked when I learned some of the stuff that's unique to your region. In fact, it starts with the rest of the world's dealing with this great resignation, but you guys aren't. What's going on with that?
Yeah, sometimes, especially here in the Middle East, you know, we still have a lot of inflow of the oil, but also because a lot of people are still very much attracted to come east. And so in that sense, yeah, we do have a challenge in because, you know, there's still a lot of opportunity and we're still growing and there's a lot of sort of government funded business. So yes, it does feel sometimes that we're mirror universe, but you know, we can't complain. It's everybody, I think.
So let's talk about, you know, what's happening in cloud in your region. So let's start with hyperscalers.
Sure.
You know, you tell me how, you know, is it easy access to the AWS, Azure, and Google, or are they far away?
No, I mean they're making huge when you think about the populations of some of the countries. So you take UAE, for example, it's 10. We've had Microsoft Azure here now since 2019. There's multiple availability zones, and coming in the next couple of months, AWS region as well with 3 data centers, which is not bad, but that's one of the features you'll see out here, where with the data residency, scalers are really per population head. I don't think there's a percentage than we have out here with Microsoft and Google just opening up in an even smaller country, and AWS is already in Bahrain, which is, and Google opening up in Saudi, which is the largest country in the Middle East next year. Investment growth rates of triple digits, not only in consumption but also in. So they are really committed to the region, and we're also seeing that in which has both Azure and AWS. And Israel's been a patient for all the hyperscalers for a long time now. But we're even seeing in Africa rolling out options for clients there, and we're doing a lot of work in all those. Really very exciting.
That is very exciting. You know, we've known Israel to be a major source of tech innovation for, oh my gosh, a decade now or more. There's an incredible amount of work
Absolutely.
coming out of there. So it's great to hear that there's so much else going on in the area. Now, of course, you know, with the way that business has grown in different parts of the world, you know, it's a little bit more unique in your construct in that there's not a lot of technical baggage laying around. You've got a lot of cloud natives there, don't you?
We do, yes, with the support of the government. Every Middle East country is looking to away from oil and gas, and large part of it. And so, yeah, so we have a lot of born in the cloud companies like Nana, you know, many companies like Starstreet. We have many new banks starting up in the cloud. So you have a nice mixture of, bearing in mind legacy here is like 30 years max. But also companies, and they continue to thrive as whilst in market cooling down.
Mm-hmm.
In the West, there's still a lot of commitment supported by the government to diversify the economy, which again, a bit of that looking glass syndrome, I like to call it, which you know, still makes things still growing quite dramatically. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one of the
100%.
things you also mentioned is that we talk about AWS, Azure, and Google, but the growth
Yeah.
of private cloud and specifically the VMware as well as OpenStack, well, it's alive and well in your
Yes,
region. Tell us a little about that.
that's super interesting, actually. Data residency, you know, unless you have a hyperscaler in the country, the only option for certain regulated industries. But we're seeing a very interesting shift towards open source.
Hmm.
You know, not just, but also potentially as a matter of self-sufficiency. You know, call it what you will, self-sufficiency. So, you know, open source is seen as a way to going forward. So we're involved in some very large open source projects, which say 5 years ago. So it's a good balance. I would say the general trend, public cloud, but you'll see we're seeing on the government side the private cloud, which of course, you know, it's great for us because we can really help both of the story and cross that bridge. Plus with OpenStack, we've got, which is very much appreciated out here. We're actually, when I opened the branch 3 years ago, we were around the block, both in commercial.
Very interesting. You know, we hear about all the growth in AWS, Azure, Google on the hyperscale side globally, and we hear about VMware still growing at a decent clip. It's exciting to hear that OpenStack is alive and well around the world. It's not the first time that we've heard it from other areas outside of America.
Yeah.
And I know some very large companies here in America actually still operate that. In fact, you know, I think some gaming companies that the back end systems that run those games are happening on OpenStack. In fact, my brother runs one of those. It's kind of cool. So, but with that, you mentioned data residency as a key driver. Is that a big deal from a government perspective in your region?
There are quite strict rules in the regulated industries for data to stay within the country. I think it's more hyperscaler data centers per population head than you probably find, because whilst the population might be low, the actual, you know, value of the business that they will capture is quite high per capita. So, and of course, you know, that's another area where security on cloud is a very hot topic, both in government and non-commercially. I would say ever since Microsoft opened up in the UAE in 2019, all the balance shift towards cloud. So now, why we're not going to cloud? How can we go to cloud? We already have some very companies in retail, in banking, they're already now asking, how can I optimize my? So we have the whole range of customer base. There's this perception, that we don't like the word emerging market. We've well emerged.
Well emerged and
We
ready
are
to
well
go.
emerged.
In fact, and we can't talk about who the customer is, but because we've been chatting and because I'm in some of these meetings, you guys have signed one of the largest OpenStack deals in Rackspace's history in recent months.
Yeah, they'll with that in the future, but there's solid facts behind these anecdotal comments. There's some real facts behind them and actual events to share more in the next coming months.
Hey, there was a question out there, and folks, I'll apologize. Our tech is letting us down just a tiny bit today. I'm having your comments are being echoed through to me in a private chat. But it was a question. It says, what platform do they use for open source? So I have to ask a clarifying question. They're of course utilizing OpenStack as that integrated platform. Is that what you're asking? You just put a comment in there, and Megan will relay it through to me. And then, is there an update for storage administration? I'm not exactly sure what that question is, other than we're always hiring storage engineers. So if you're looking for a job, it's the only thing I sell on this program is come be a coworker with George and I.
Yeah, we're hiring.
Hey, George, what roles are you looking for? What roles are you trying to hire for right now?
Right now, we're doing a lot of work in cloud native development, as well as this. We're doing a lot of work in application support. So we're hiring program architects. We're going to bring a whole bunch of people in with skills as well in the next 3-4 months. So that's going to be interesting. So I think it's really important for us that the key people, the Scrum Masters, the customer success managers, we like to have those close to the customer, because it's post-COVID, post-Zoom, it's still a relationship-based culture out here. So we're all super. I mean, we've been in the office for months now. We were all super happy when we could all start meeting, because that's how things are done. So we tend to try and get those client-facing roles, those leadership roles, here on the ground, because it makes things go fast. It builds trust. Okay. Proficient at building projects remotely, and we do that all the time. I still are best done face to face, and our clients really appreciate us for doing that. Stand out in, well, not just the sales office. We've really invested in those frontline.
Yeah. Well, George, thank you so much for being a part of our program here today.
Sure.
Thank you for taking time out of your crazy schedule as you're moving from one house to another in 122 degrees, which I just can't even imagine how they keep data centers cold when it's that hot. But thank you so much for being a part of it, and thank you for being everything that you do. And folks, if you're interested in working with George, just over to rackspace.jobs and look in his region. He's got a bunch of them open over there. So go be a part of the fun in the Middle East and Africa region. George, thanks. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Great.
All right, everyone. Wasn't that interesting? I loved it when he showed us outside the screen, outside his the apartment there. It's just a different world. Crazy big fat round earth of ours. All right, folks. Well, let's progress on. As a reminder, you can always go over to solve.rackspace.com to learn more about what we're up to. Love for you to subscribe to the podcast. So those can be found anywhere podcasts are found. Just go look for Cloud Talk. We are getting ready to release a whole new batch of podcasts there as we head into what we'll call our next season. I've lost count. We've been doing this for so many years. But love for you to check those out. All right. So I'm being told my audio is weird. I don't know what to do about it right now. So it's just going to be weird, unfortunately, if that's how it's actually coming out. Well, folks, that was our discussion. Let's move on to This Week in the Cloud, where I have a chance to share with you different news about what's happening out in the world and how technology is a part of that. Now, our first article comes to us, and it talks about what it means to be cloud native. Now, there are a lot of different characteristics, and cloud native is a term that many people are just using as a new marketing buzzword, where they say, hey, are you cloud first? And they'll say, yeah, but are you cloud native? Well, sure, I want to be a cloud native. Well, what does it actually mean? What are the characteristics? There's no hard and fast definition, by the way, but there are characteristics that help define what a cloud native individual or organization is. First of all, you want to be utilizing the dynamic aspects that exist inside of the cloud, meaning you are programmatically accessing those elements. You're doing it through utilizing microservices and containers. You're orchestrating those containers through Kubernetes. You're utilizing not just a server with a database on it, but a cloud native storage construct. So whether that is, if you're in Azure, you might be using Azure SQL or Azure MySQL or their open source versions, or Redshift or Bigtable, all the things that you could be using that are the native aspects of it. And you're doing this in an agile way. You're accessing all of this stuff through code. You've got CI/CD pipelines, all that sort of fun stuff. So these are some of the things that make a person or an organization be more cloud native than I'll call it traditional in their approach. Now, just because you're maybe not necessarily utilizing a hyperscaler for all of your resources, you can still be cloud native. Did you know that? Utilizing private cloud with containers allows you to create environments that are extraordinarily dynamic, that are addressable through software. And you can start to build those muscles now, even as you're either not moved or in the beginning stages of your move. All right. Well, who's got $5 for a pint of beer? Did you know that at this point in time, you can actually buy a bunch of malware to do bad things for about the price of a pint of beer, which is really quite depressing. So and this is an article that was posted about a week ago, back on the 21st of July, I guess a couple of weeks ago. And there are underground marketplaces now that will sell you a full suite of malware for a really ridiculous number, and that's about $5 US. And it just shows the seriousness that cybersecurity represents to not only to individuals, but especially to organizations. And I'm going to be talking on Thursday. That's right. We're doing 2 episodes this week. I've got my good friend John Engates coming in from Cloudflare, and we're going to talk about what it means and techniques that you can use to help secure your networks and your environment in this modern threat, where for $5 you can attack an organization with malware. Just ridiculous. So you can go read that article if you like. I don't remember where I found it. See if I have it here. It's Computer Weekly. Yeah, you can find it on Computer Weekly. Or you can just show up on Thursday at 8:30 Central Time, where John Engates, previous and longest running CTO of Rackspace, now CTO over at Cloudflare, and I are going to talk about just that very subject. All right, well, let's press on. And that takes us out of the news. Let's see what's going on with our friends over the hyperscalers and what they've been up to. As always, we're going to start with AWS. Now, AWS Connect now enables contact center managers to view historical contact volumes and average handling times in their forecasting UI. So the forecasting UI now takes all of this into account while helping to create create your staffing models and stuff for their contact center. Pretty cool stuff, utilizing their own tools to make their own stuff more better. Now that's when things get really nifty. Who else does a ton of that type stuff they all do, but Azure as well. Now Azure has in public preview AMD-based confidential VMs for Azure Kubernetes service, so their AKS service. So now they've added AMD-based machines to that, not just Intel, if that's your flavor, and also over at GCP, or Google Cloud as we call it, enhancements to their bare metal solution for resource management. Bare metal still is alive and well, folks. Sometimes these workloads are so intense that they require not a fraction of a computer or a service that runs on a computer, but the entire computer. And so you've got enhancements over at GCP to be able to help make that happen. Way to go, GCP. All right. Well, that takes us up to the only thing, like I mentioned, that I sell around here, and that is coming to work here at Rackspace. And that is the job of the day. Today's job of the day is, wait for it, cloud architect for Azure inside of our professional services organization. Now, as a cloud architect, you're doing everything, folks. You're listening to business requirements. You are understanding what the company's goals are, and you're helping to architect that takes into account the business goals, the challenges, and their existing technology stacks to create solutions that take their business forward. I love the architect role. The architect role is kind of the mastermind behind the entire deployment of that. So if you're interested in that role, just head over to rackspace.jobs and you can learn more and maybe come hang out with Benjamin and Megan and Daniel and myself and have a great old time. That will get you on the program as well. As a reminder, you can find all sorts of incredible information, all for free, all without the fear of a pop-up going, how can I help you today? Over at rackspace.com/solve, our thought leadership program. Now, as I mentioned, we are going to be back here on Thursday with John Engates. And John's an incredible dude. You're going to absolutely want to come and check that out. And we always have a great conversation. And of course, we're talking about security. There's no one topic that everybody should be showing up for other than when we talk about security. And as always, a big thank you to our good friends over at App Dynamics. Now, if you're in software development, if you are in a business that uses software, okay, just to find everybody in the world, then you should be using a full stack of observability suite from App Dynamics. I've got their global CTO coming on the program here in a week or two. I forget the date, but it's coming up. By the way, we aren't done with the whole, we got one more summer road trip coming up. It's on the 23rd. We've got Andrew Beerley coming on. So we have one more of those to look forward to. Next week, we have a really fun episode, and that episode will be a clip show. Who doesn't love a good clip show? In fact, I'm going to record it this afternoon or tomorrow because I will be taking my son back to college. So I will not be around here and not available to do a live stream. But you're going to want to watch the clip show. Some incredible stuff, all from this year. I was watching through a bunch of these yesterday, and we had some incredible guests on. You're going to get to see some of them next week. All right, my friends, that is going to just about do it for us over here. Ooh, fancy music too. Thanks so much for being a part of the program. And until next time, my name is Jeff DeVerter for Cloud Talk Live.